Almost 5 months ago, the first coronavirus vaccine manufactured by Pfizer-BioNTech was put into use in the US. Soon after, the next two vaccines manufactured by Moderna and Johnson & Johnson were put into circulation. As of the making of this video, nearly 240 million doses have been administered to around 140 million people. This SARS-CoV-2 vaccine is one of a new breed called mRNA vaccines. And these vaccines are totally different from any of the other vaccines that came before them.
The mRNA in the title is a phrase you might recognize from biology class. It's messenger RNA. The messenger RNA's job is to tell the cell what proteins to make based on what the instructions are in the DNA. The mRNA in the COVID vaccine codes for a spike protein that's found on the outside of the COVID virus. You know all those pictures you see of COVID where it has those little spiky things on it? That's the protein that this vaccine codes for, and it's what the vaccine wants to train your immune system to recognize.
Before this mRNA is injected into your arm, it is encased in a fatty lipid shell. Otherwise, it would break down too quickly to accomplish its purpose. As a side note, this has produced some complications because the fatty lipid must be stored at sub-zero temperatures, otherwise it'll be ruined, which is difficult for distribution and transportation. Once the needle delivers the shot to your arm, the mRNA encased in the fatty lipid makes its way to your immune cells.
There, the cell removes the outer coating and, realizing it has a sequence of messenger RNA on its hands, it makes the protein that the mRNA says it should. It then realizes, hey, wait a second, this isn't supposed to be here. We don't like this, so you know what, we better remember this. Your immune system then makes a bunch of antibodies for that protein, and if you were to get the actual disease after that, your body would immediately recognize the spike protein and just destroy it. Absolutely obliterate that.
The reason we need 2 doses, to simplify it a lot, is because 1 dose isn't enough to convince your body that it's dealing with a credible threat. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine only requires 1 dose because it does not use the mRNA of the COVID virus. It uses a weakened version of the virus. However, mRNA vaccination is relatively new, so there are still some problems to work through. Since they must be stored at much lower temperatures than previous vaccines, hospitals and distribution sites don't always have the capacity to store them. This has proved not only very costly, but has also limited where they can be sent.
But there is one incredible benefit to mRNA vaccines, which is that you cannot contract COVID at all. 0 chance of contracting COVID from the vaccine, because it contains no actual parts of the virus. This makes it much safer for people who are immunocompromised or individuals whose bodies might overreact to the presence of an actual pathogen.
The COVID vaccines were distributed in Maryland in a 3-phase process. The first phase included healthcare essential workers, a handful of other essential workers, and anybody 75 and older. The second phase vaccinated anybody 55 and older, anybody 16 and older with underlying health conditions, and all other essential workers.
Right now, the FDA has authorized the Pfizer-BioNTech, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines for an emergency use authorization. As you might have heard, the single-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine was put on hold after 6 individuals who received the vaccine reported severe blood clots. The pause was lifted on April 23rd after a review by the CDC and the FDA found that the vaccine was both safe and effective at preventing COVID-19. The FDA has additionally determined that the available data shows that the vaccine's known and potential benefits outweigh its known and potential risks in individuals 18 years of age or older. Those who receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccine are required to be informed of its potential harms and to have an alternate vaccine available on standby.
As we get ever close to vaccinating everybody over the age of 16, the question arises, what about the rest? Throughout the pandemic, children have been asymptomatic at higher rates than any other age group, and few children have actually developed severe illnesses, and most who did as a result of underlying health conditions. Asymptomatic cases are particularly dangerous when trying to minimize the spread, because even though they're contagious, they don't seem sick. So people might not realize the danger of them and might not take the important precautions.
Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna have started testing their vaccines on children as young as 6 months old. Pfizer's vaccine is found to be 100% effective in children 12 to 15 years old after experimenting with dosage and testing. The testing included administering a placebo shot or the actual COVID vaccine to a group of 12 to 15-year-old children and observing the effects to see whether it was actually effective. The side effects on this age group are similar to those of vaccinated 16 to 25-year-olds, which include fever, fatigue, and soreness in the arm. The FDA then approved it on May 10th and expanded Pfizer's emergency use authorization to include 12 to 15-year-olds. The CDC then gave its approval, and the vaccine is now ready to be distributed.
They have also started testing their COVID vaccine on the 6 to 11 month cohort and are looking to file for an emergency use authorization for their 2 to 5 cohort and their 5 to 11 cohort in September. Moderna is currently testing the proper dosage for anybody 2 years to under 12 years. Then they will determine the proper dosage amount for those 6 months to 2 years of age. The information gathered from these two studies will be used in the next phase, where they study the efficacy of the vaccine on these two age groups. So, the COVID vaccine for children under the age of 16 are being thoroughly tested and well on their way.
For COVID vaccines for you, there are multiple vaccination sites nearby that you can sign up to. Just go to massvax.maryland.gov. You must first verify that you are 18 years or older, or if you're a minor, that your legal guardian is there to fill it out with you. Once you've agreed to that, just fill in your zip code and then you'll be given a list of vaccination sites near you. It will include the brand of vaccine that's being distributed, the address of the vaccination site, and its relative distance from you.
Then click See Availability and choose the times that work best for you. There may not be any appointments available at the time you are looking at the website, but make sure you look at all the locations first and keep checking back at the website. Once you've chosen your appointment times, all you need to do is fill in some personal details and you're set to be vaccinated. Appointments at local pharmacies like CVS do exist, but they can be hard to get a hold of. So, use massvax.maryland.gov to your advantage. There are many places in Maryland from which you can get your vaccine. Mass vaccination sites have been set up all across the state, like the ones at Six Flags in Bowie, Maryland, who distribute about 2,000 doses per day. The Western Maryland Mass Vaccination Site is in Hagerstown and is accepting walk-ins.
Many of these mass vaccination sites are in stadiums, like Regency Furniture Stadium in Waldorf, M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, and Ripken Stadium in Aberdeen. The Baltimore Convention Center is also giving out vaccines and is accepting walk-ins. Navy Stadium in Annapolis is also a designated mass vaccination site. All of the stadiums are only available on days when they aren't being used for their main purpose, which is, of course, sporting events. Go team! Vaccination is safe and effective, and thanks to Operation Warp Speed, the COVID vaccines have been made available to the public at record speed, even after being tested again and again just as much as any other vaccine. Getting vaccinated will get us one step closer to ending the pandemic and saving countless lives.